Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are doing the perfect prompt makeover. Look, we're going to totally ditch those frustrating hit-or-miss AI results and upgrade you into a confident, structured communicator. If you've ever felt like your AI tool just, isn't really listening to you, or it's giving you incredibly generic answers, we're going to fix that right now using a ridiculously simple, repeatable framework.
Okay, let's dive right into this. If you've ever asked an AI for help and it completely missed the mark, just gave you something totally useless, I want you to know you are definitely not alone. But here's the secret. It's usually because we're giving it incredibly vague inputs. We kind of tend to assume the tool just intuitively knows what we mean. But without a structured request, the AI is literally just guessing. Consider a prompt like this: write me a recipe. When you toss over a vague request like that, the AI is forced to wildly guess what you actually want. I mean, a recipe for what? For who? What kind of diet are you on? What's actually sitting in your pantry? This is exactly how you end up with generic, unhelpful, or honestly completely random answers that you just can't use. I absolutely love this analogy directly from our sources. It says, think of prompting as giving clear, helpful directions to a smart friend who wants to help you, but doesn't know anything about your background. Honestly, treat the AI exactly like that. It's a remarkably smart, incredibly eager friend who just needs you to hand over the right set of tools and directions to actually succeed at the job you're giving it. So let's get into the RTCO framework. This is your core toolkit for taking control. The first tool in our RTCO toolkit is the role. The very first thing you want to do is give this smart friend a specific job. Tell the AI to act as a professional chef, a math tutor, maybe an expert guide. By starting with act as, you instantly focus its immense knowledge. And right from the very first word, you set the standard of quality.
Right, so once it has a role, next comes the task. This is where you explain the exact job you need done. Instead of just typing a vague keyword like food, drop those vague keywords entirely and use direct action verbs. Tell it to list, compare, analyze, or draft. You really need to tell it exactly what the final product should be. For example, draft a detailed dinner plan. It's all about being completely explicit and intentional with your verbs. Then comes context, and wow, this is where the magic really happens. Context stops the AI from wildly guessing by giving it the situational background facts. Going back to our recipe example, this is where you tell that professional chef exactly what ingredients are already sitting in your fridge, your dietary restrictions, and who you're actually cooking for. You're tailoring the response to your exact, real-world scenario instead of a generic one. And the final core piece of this framework is output. This is where you set crystal clear boundaries for how the answer should actually look on your screen. You want to explicitly steer the format, the length, and the overall tone. Do you need a short summary, bullet points, maybe a friendly, casual email draft? Make sure to say that directly in your request. By steering the format up front, you make sure the final result is immediately useful, which saves you from a ton of frustrating extra editing later on. Now, what's really interesting here is looking back at our starting point. This is the classic before state. Write me a recipe. Seeing it now, you realize the AI is completely in the dark. It has no role, no specific task, literally zero context, and no idea what kind of output you want. It's a recipe for disaster. Yeah, pun fully intended on that one. But watch how this transforms as we inject our role, task, context, and output elements step by step. First up, the role. Act as a professional chef. Second, the task. Draft a recipe. Third, the context. Use my fridge ingredients for 2 people. And finally, the output. Make it a short list. Notice how we're meticulously building this foolproof set of instructions rather than just throwing a random keyword at the wall and hoping something sticks. And here is the ultimate makeover. Looking at these side by side, the contrast is just undeniable. That vague prompt on the left gets you a frustrating guess, but the structured prompt on the right, that gets you a personalized, formatted, ready-to-use dinner plan from a master chef. That right there is the true power of the RTCO framework in action. It's a total game changer. Okay, once you have that solid RTCO foundation down, you can polish your prompt even further. First, try setting negative constraints. Basically, tell the AI what not to do. Phrases like omit introductory fluff or avoid jargon eliminate those annoying robotic paragraphs you always end up deleting anyway. Second, you can provide 1 or 2 quick examples of the exact input and output format you expect. Showing the AI an example pretty much guarantees it understands the assignment perfectly. So, the absolutely crucial takeaway from this explainer is this 6-point checklist. Seriously, print it, save it, keep it handy on your desk, because this is a highly actionable tool you can use every single time you start a conversation with an AI. You start with role, task, context, and output to build the foundation, and then you bring in negatives and examples to really fine-tune it. If you keep this checklist by your side, you are never going to get a useless, generic AI response ever again. Which brings us to our final question. What are you going to create next now that you're communicating with absolute precision? I highly challenge you to apply this exact 6-point checklist to your very next AI request. Seriously, stop accepting mediocre answers, start being incredibly explicit, and see just how powerful and fast your results become when you finally ditch the guesswork. Thank you so much for exploring this with me, and happy prompting!